Hello and welcome back to the CyberPowerPC Spring 5K Invitational featuring some of the top NA teams. We're going to be moving into our second series of the day. My name is Bren and I'm joined again by Sideshow.
How are you doing?
I've left that off at a really bad angle, to be honest. I'm doing well. Let's not waste any time because I think the teams are, momentarily getting into the lobby and whatnot. But we can take a quick look at the bracket and see where we're currently standing in terms of the general games played, and we can start to look at some of these storylines that are being developed as we go on. As you can see, LG Evil actually ended up besting out over Cloud9 in a recent match that we literally just casted, and now we're going to be moving on to the CLG Counter Logic Gaming versus Rise Nation, which is next to be played. And after that one, we'll be going into basically the third place match, which will be casted by Hex and ZP, and then the grand finals, which will also be casted by those. So we've had some, honestly, hell of a games ahead of us. I wasn't really expecting so many close games between some of these teams, but I've been shocked, I think, in numerous outcomes, essentially, of some of these teams, because they've been much more adequately in the current meta, I guess, than I think most people would expect.
Yeah, absolutely. CLG 100% stepped up on day one, knocked out Immortals, one of the favorites for the tournament in the quarterfinals, and a nail-biting game, absolutely close as you could get, as close as that C9 LG Evil game that we just saw on the other side of the bracket in the semifinals as well. But can CLG pull it off twice in a row? They're against what most would consider a slightly lesser opponent, but the gap between the tier 1 and tier 2, or 2 and 3, or however you want to categorize it, but the gap between these tiers of teams in North America is much smaller than it has been in the past. So CLG and Rise both pretty much on even footing, but either team could certainly take this one. Now, in terms of how that's done, the predictions leaderboard as well, this is cyberpowerpc.sevo.com/predictions. If you guys want to get in on the game, there's currently nobody who's managed to predict the bracket so far in its entirety. A lot of people have predicted 4 out of 5 of the games that have happened to success, but not all 5 of them. So definitely still chance to get in there and win some decent prizes. There's also a giveaway that's going on, but I believe we have some map bans happening as well for this semi-final, Rise v CLG. And where do you expect this to go? What would be your thoughts on how these two teams have matched up and where you would want to take them in terms of the map pool?
Rise Nation have shown a lot of competence on, I guess, tank compositions, but I believe they're not exactly foreign to the concept of just flexing over to the sort of, I guess, dive roles. So as you can see from these picks and bans that we've got already, CLG actually opting to take out a lot of the sort of, not hybrid, but payloady maps. So banning out the Dorado, Watchpoint Gibraltar, King's Row, just taking those out of the equation. Rise Nation focusing mainly on actually Oasis, which is a map that is very strong, very powerful for these dive compositions again. Numbani, which is interestingly enough, I think would have probably been a sort of favored map for the compositions that they like to run, and Temple of Anubis is also going to be taken out of the equation. So quite a lot of assault maps still in the pool, and as you can see in the later picks, they start to sort of drift towards Rise Nation picking, I guess, Hanamura on 2CP, which is an interesting one. Some teams aren't particularly big fans of the assault maps in general, but it's something that I think definitely plays to their strengths, and Legion Tower as a control. So a lot of, I guess, variety in Rise Nation's picks here.
I like the way that Rise Nation have played this. They eliminate maps at the beginning that are really good for the Pharah Mercy combo, particularly Oasis really early on, and then they have their pocket pick of Hanamura that they pull out at the end, which is going to be our 4th map, and the random kind of hits them really nicely as well. If they want to take things over to Assault, then that random pick of Volskaya is certainly not a problem for them. And CLG left it in their map pool as well, so it's not like they are definitely shying away from it at all, and that leaves us with 2 Assault maps towards the latter end to decide this, as long as it doesn't go through 3-0 one way or the other early on. But this is going to be a super tense and close game between these 3 teams, and I think they're both almost ready as well. So we're going to be diving into our first map, which is going to be Hollywood fairly shortly. So just to remind you, it's going to be Hollywood, Lijiang Tower, Eichenwald, Hanamura, and then Volskaya. So beginning on Hollywood, these maps are pretty interesting. Lijiang in particular was something that both of these teams played in the first round of the quarterfinals, and they both had a varying success on it. They had really tough games against both of their opponents that went back and forth right down to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eichenwald being CLG's pick here, a map that does actually quite favor the Pharah Mercy, so I can understand why they'd sort of want that in their map pool, but it's also something that you can run tanking compositions on and do quite well. So that's quite an interesting one for me. CLG would go about picking that one, but it's all going to be off the back of these results. I don't know when the game's going to be starting. I believe the players are ready in the lobby. I mean, we're just waiting on the go time from a few players. I see. Okay, well, we're actually waiting on one of the players from Rise Nation. They had to restart their PCs, but shortly we will be getting into the game. We can talk a bit more about these maps that have been picked off as well. What team do you think's got the better of the other then? Are you just sort of pointing out Rise Nation because of their sort of pocket pick of Hanamura in the final sections, or?
I definitely like the way that Rise Nation played the pick ban in terms of taking out maps that are going to be really favored towards CLG early on. And interestingly, CLG actually go with their first pick on Hollywood, which in the quarterfinals where they were really going toe-to-toe with Immortals was actually one of the maps that they lost. They lost Hollywood and they lost Lijiang. Those were the two maps that Immortals actually managed to take. And both of those are going to be featured in this map pool. So I'm not saying, though, that Rise Nation are on the level of Immortals or even play like them, actually. They have very different styles, the way that these two teams match up, and strengths in different areas. But CLG certainly don't look like they've been shaken whatsoever by the quarterfinal game. I feel, if anything, they feel like they performed really well, and would actually, it was to their credit that they were going toe-to-toe with Immortals on those particular maps. But those are going to be the two to start it off. And if CLG just kind of smack it out the park on Hollywood and Lijiang, then Rise Nation are going to struggle actually to take Eichenwald, I think. So there's a potential for it to go 3-0 the way of CLG, unless Rise Nation have something in their back pocket to be able to deal with the Pharah Mercy and Tracer composition that we were seeing from CLG pretty much all throughout yesterday. And Rise Nation they had a super close game against FaZe that went 3-1. And although the scoreline doesn't really describe it, it was insanely close. And it actually took Spirit flexing over to Reaper and like Midnight playing some Zarya and some really strange, odd, kind of off-meta even picks to send them through to the semifinals. So if anything, I think Rise Nation are the underdogs here.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm fully with you on that one. Rise Nation have, whilst they're not necessarily, haven't had poor performance in the past, they've definitely been improving steadily at a steady rate in recent days, at least. And they've shown that they can compete with some of these, I guess, the teams that are on the cusp of almost entering this Tier 1 region in North America. They've shown that they can compete with them on a reasonable playing field. But whether or not they will actually be able to do it when the time comes to it, which is now, is yet to be shown. We're about to see. And it looks like it will be a triple tank composition for Rise Nation on this defense. I agree with this. I think it actually works incredibly well. The one thing they might struggle with is they're not running a D.Va, and Hydration is 100% going to be running this the Pharah Mercy combo alongside D. So they might run into a few hiccups of that.
Yeah, they're lacking a lot of ability to deal with that. We've got a quick pause here because Redsy's got some, I don't know, ping issues or something like that. We don't really know. But just to discuss their composition for a little bit. Yesterday, Midnight was definitely performing at his best when he was on the Zarya. I don't think that was really a question. They tried a couple of different lineups for them, and Midnight Zarya was by far and away the best of his individual picks, and him and Locke were actually performing really well. This is a team, Rise Nation, that have been criticized a couple of times for their inconsistencies. When they're at their best, they look like they can compete with the top teams in North America. When they're not at their best, they look like they're kind of a mediocre team, or they sometimes straight up lose to bad teams. So yeah, in a sense, it depends which Rise Nation turns up, but judging based on yesterday, it also depends whether they can fit compositions that are nice comfort picks for them. So we'll see how that works out. Redsy and Spirit yesterday were combining for some pretty good DPS pairing. Spirit flexing onto the Reaper that we really haven't seen anybody play for ages. I mean, we saw it seen in Apex by who was it? It was like Envious in Apex Season 2, I think, in the group stages, played a little bit of Reaper. They put Harry Hook over onto the Reaper and stuff, but it really is one of the only heroes that you don't see played with any kind of regularity in this patch.
Yeah, he's very much a super situational pick where you would only use him in a very few set scenarios. That might be sort of what Rise Nation, that is, are going for with the second pick onto Lijiang Tower, because it does work quite well running a Reaper in the control center section of that, but focusing on Hollywood here and now, I can't imagine any scenarios where you would see the Reaper, to be honest, because it is, generally speaking, quite open on all sections, unless you're taking these deep nitty-gritty fights in the first section of the second point of Hollywood. I don't know what the heck they're waiting on for. I think it is just Retsy's having issues. He's got his team is bullying him in the local chat about using a wireless microphone. They're just giving him a lot of banter, but no, it's super interesting if they, because would you say they don't have a comfortable D.Va player? Is that the reason they're not really running this into such an obvious sort of composition?
I think quite a lot of teams don't really have a comfortable D.Va player, but they have somebody who's serviceable on D.Va. I think, really, though, they're trying to play to their strengths rather than play a counter comp to what they've got to be expecting from CLG. I mean, you've got to know that Hydration and Thee are going to be running their Pharah Mercy, but I don't think they're trying to play to their own strengths, I think, rather than playing into the composition of the enemy. So Midnight going to stay on the Zarya. And definitely, if you can chain that together, the Zarya and Roadhog is a very reasonable composition to be running on Hollywood A defense. Looks like we're going to be going back into the game as well. So hopefully we get this first map started of the semi-final, our second one of the day between CLG and Rise. But it does put a lot of pressure onto Retzi to put damage onto Hydration and particularly I feel like a lot of players, when they come up against a Pharah Mercy, try and focus down the Pharah without just taking out the guy healing him and then dealing with it, because if you can get early picks on the Mercy, not only are you denying Resurrect, you're also, like Resurrect's charge being built, you're also denying that heals. Pharah is much easier to take down afterwards.
Absolutely. As of right now, it's pretty passive play so far. I mean, Rise are holding the corner quite well. Normally you see teams play the tanky compositions quite passive back on the point, but you know, Rise Nation, they want to take it all the way into them. And look at this, Hydration moves into the back with a damage boosted rocket. Be right on his back, and they've actually pushed him right back in here. Desro's just trying to hold up his shield, contest it for as much as he possibly can. They've already got one tick on the point so far on the side of CLG. CLG having an absolute field day so far. Midnight just trying to focus them down, but with the Zarya shield, they just got to wait for the cooldown to expire with them. Retzi's in a bit of trouble as well. He falls into the back lines. Good defense so far, not quite getting the second tick, but Hydration's already built up the barrage, and he's picked up 2 kills with it. Unbelievable. D is about 15% away from his Resurrect as well. This is 100% going to be a one fight. And I really think their downfall there was just not having a dedicated D.Va player. When you know that they're running the Pharah Mercy, he's just going to have so much troubles. You know, Zarya's an okay sort of pick against it, but the D.Va pick is just so much better in so many different ways because of the defense matrix.
Yeah, it also synergizes really well with Desro on Reinhardt, because you can block a lot of damage that would otherwise be shattering a shield, and he lost his shield about twice just to those damage boosted rockets. So a lot of pressure being applied to him, and now they've moved over to a double hit scan D.Va Winston dive comp. Allows them to recontest the top of the saloon and the bank, so they're playing around there for now. Waffletastic was going off yesterday, already had some pretty good performances really early on that first point attack, and so far this payload just hasn't stopped for CLG. Now Desro coming in to contest.
Absolutely. CLG is just really pushing this all the way in. There's not a lot of efforts, and the Sound Barrier is used here on the side of Rise Nation, but it's going to be all the frags popping in for CLG. Waffletastic claims Spirit. Miso's even picking up a Retzi himself. Faz is going to fall to Waffletastic once again, and a really solid fight once again by the side of CLG. Not using any ultimates other than Ice Shiny's Primal Rage to really get into the thick of that. Impressive stuff, to be honest, because now they've got so many ultimates to use to really just hammer home this second point.
I assume that Rise Nation are going to try and contest. They've got the composition to attempt it, coming out through this left-hand door, but Desro dies immediately.
Wow.
Those rockets coming in do so much damage. Self-destructing as well, and that takes down Lock in the back end. There is no way that they're going to be able to contest this. The Resurrect are going to have to be invested in this fight as they just clean up the stragglers, capture checkpoint 2, and they can begin to roll into last here as well. And Rise have got to reassess the situation.
Yeah, ultimately using 3 ultimates there on the side of CLG to take that one. Not the best efficiency, but they absolutely slammed it home for them. And Midnight has now switched to the D.Va after he realized after the first point checkpoint it wasn't really working on the Zarya. Still, the cart going to get pushed in here by CLG. High ground being held quite convincingly as well. Damage boosted rockets in the upper area going to be forcing Rise Nation from taking a foothold in the upper balcony section. And they can just really play this quite passively, wait for the cart to be pushed in as naturally forward as it possibly can. Damage boosters rocket's going to be basically creating the openings for them, essentially. Is all you got to do is wait for one lucky shot. You can just one-shot the Tracer with a damage boost. Rocket can do all sorts, but now the initiation comes in. It's a pulse bomb. Connects onto him. Waffletastic wants to move onto the backlines, onto Lock. Self-destruct sequence going to be used by Midnight. Does bring down Hydration. Couldn't quite get out of the way, but there's the Resurrect going to be resetting the fight. It's now a 6v5. Retzi moves in once again, picking up another one. Waffletastic is still causing a bit of havoc in the backlines. Meanwhile, Now we see the Primal Rage being used to full effect by Desro. He's just whacking around this Fire Mercy combo, not giving him any room to breathe whatsoever. Playing it to his fullest potential, to be honest. And Hydration now without the Mercy player, going to be in a bit of a sticky situation. Still the contestation coming out by Rise Nation as they're trying to, and now they're going to be backing off, just trying to regroup. It's actually going to be Shiny who moves in with his own Primal Rage of his own, just to see what he can get out of it. And he hasn't managed to actually push them back, so they've got a decent amount of cart push time here as well, Sideshow.
Retsy's got a decent angle to use this tactical visor that he has. He's slowly creeping his way up top. He's actually been spotted there by Hydration, so he has to drop down, think of a different angle. Looks like he's considering making his way back up top, but he's baited the positioning out from Miso. Tactical visor now engaged. Retsy seeing if he can get some picks, but Miso's right up in his face. Forces out the sound barrier as well, but they've demexed the D.Va, and now they can start to move forward, and Locke is just pinging orbs into everybody as well.
Hydration actually ends up going with a 2k, a 3k. In fact, no, that's just Emek, but he ends up falling himself. Ends up suiciding with the rest of his team, as it was a bit of a futile effort. Yeah, once you pop that barrage, there's just no way to cancel it off. So you're going to be stuck in those situations quite often. Even if he did pick up the kills there, team wasn't there to back him up and capitalize off the back of it. So we're going to see a change in compositions here. Shiny now moving over to the Reinhardt. This is actually quite interesting because it is something that kind of favors it, being quite a choke pointy angle. Often you do need that Reinhardt shield to try and push your way through, but it's sort of running a half-and-half composition. It's quite an odd one. Self-destruct's going to be sent into the back lines, not finding too much. He's going to be getting back into the mech. The sound barrier used as well by the side of CLG. Deadeye by Waffletastic doesn't quite claim a kill. Can't quite get damage into them. Miso finds Retsy once again, however. They are just going to look to press this even further forward. Primal Rage now used as well by Desro, just trying to push them back off the point. He's getting focused down with that Discord Orb. He's in a bit of a sticky situation, getting ran down. Mikado's still on the point, but this will be a successful defense by Rise Nation. Still Mikado dying super late there in the back lines as well.
There is still 2.5 minutes here, but yeah. CLG have been kind of stuck by map geometry. It's very difficult for them to get the Pharah Mercy in here, and so they've switched Hydration and the over to Genji and the Zenyatta. And to synergize with that, they've now also got the shield, so they can make an approach. Whoa, the Zen v Zen fight going on. And Locke takes a couple of orbs to the chest and dies, and in comes the Dragon Blade at the same time. Synergizing here with the Transcendence coming out from B as well, and they're wiping up everybody. There's only Spirit left alive. Pulse Bomb on the cart, not going to find anybody. The spawner of Locke, not there in time.
Yeah.
And that's all they needed. 2 minutes still on the clock.
That was quite honestly the most textbook push I've ever seen. They used the Transcendence to just infiltrate in, make sure everyone could basically get into the final checkpoint and get the positionings. Hydration completely utilized the Dragon Blade to its fullest potential there. Immediately jumped into the back lines, focused down Retsy to ensure that he couldn't get any damage off onto his team. And even with the Zarya bubble on him, it was too little too late. He just got basically focused down, and the rest of his team had free reigns to try and take the fight even further in. So lovely, lovely push attempt there, getting roughly around 2 minutes on the clock for CLG. Now they're going to be moving on to the defense themselves, whereas it will be Rise Nation looking to attack. And early compositions that they've locked in so far, this could be switched up, by no means, by all means I should say, but they might still go for the tanky compositions. But right now it looks like they're favoring a triple DPS sort of lineup.
It certainly does. The composition that came out from CLG towards the end, where they had the McCree. They had actually been running the McCree for a while, and I'm kind of wondering what that was to deal with. Like, why would they not run a Tracer in that situation? I assume it's because Hollywood's last area is actually difficult to infiltrate and get behind people, and they don't have a comp that actually wants to dive and distract to allow the Tracer to get the maximum value. But even so, why the McCree? Why not flex that onto the Soldier 76 instead? But it worked out for them in the end, and it looks like it's going to be the comp that they're running now. I'm just puzzling through it and wondering why we're seeing the McCree. It could also just be preference. I mean, there is... Most people would say that the Soldier 76 is better across most angles. You've got the Helix Rocket in the Biotic Field, as well as putting out a lot of damage. But perhaps Waffletastic just feels like he's better on the McCree.
Yeah, that's always one option, is that it might just be the comfort pick. One thing I wanted to point out is that it's going to be triple tank being ran on the defense here for CLG, but not the triple tank that you might actually consider. It's the Roadhog in conjunction with the Winston and D.Va. An interesting one, because usually that requires you to play quite passive around the Roadhog hooks, but you need to play around your Roadhog essentially. But they've also got Waffletastic on the McCree, which isn't necessarily a very dive composition-y role. You see Desro moving forward now for Rise Nation, wants to try and get the initiation in. The hook comes out by Hydration, doesn't actually connect, but Waffletastic brings down Midnight. A few quick shots will find the kill. They are getting the openings they need to get this defense. Retzi is in the back meanwhile. He's going to get tangled with Pylyshyn a little bit. Recoil away eventually and get healed back up. But the push was stunted just basically off the back of that initial pick onto Midnight.
And this seems to be the composition that they want to run with any time that they aren't using the Pharah Mercy. We saw it quite a number of times against Immortals, but it wasn't really working as well. You know, once they were flexing onto this, they weren't finding as much success. Here's the engage, but Desra Midnight falling immediately there. Nice headshot from Hydration to take down the tank. Oh, another hook coming out from Hydration, destroys him.
Yeah, this is they're playing this very well. The Roadhog isn't being focused down enough and pressured as much by Rise Nation as I feel like they should be. Now they've got a pulse bomb on Retzi, they could actually just completely pump all of their resources into Hydration, bringing them down, but it's very risky. Especially when you're not running like an Ana to stop his healing. So with the bio grenade, that is. They're gonna make another attempt in now. What a hook by Hydration! That is filthy. He manages to get the bubble off, so he's gonna be safe, but that is gonna be the whole hog used as well. I mean, that's gonna be pushed all the way back. And Retzi in the back line puts the bomb onto Pylyshyn, brings him down. Spirit as well. This is actually wonderful stuff by Rise Nation so far. Picking up kill after kill right now. Retzi's on a mad one. Finishes up D, finishes up Mikado. All the supports taken down, and now it's gonna be easy pickings for the remainder of the Rise Nation squad as they are happy to just cap up this first point. Gonna get one tick. Is this still defendable for CLG?
I don't think they can really commit to this. Pylyshyn's looking like he's around.
Ooh.
Oh, they are actually going in for it. Pylyshyn, if he gets focused down here quickly, though, is going to be the only tank for the team that's just immediately removed. Miso is so far away, but he uses that Transcendence, keeping Mikado alive. They're still contesting the point, just doing a decent job of delaying, but Hydration didn't even really commit to that fight, so that was a weird one. They full-on committed there, put the Transcendence in, and what, for an extra 15 seconds? That's a very strange one for CLG.
To be honest. I mean, are they going to switch? Yeah, the reason they did it is because they wanted to switch D over to Mercy. They wanted to use the Transcendence. It's actually quite smart because they killed a few seconds and they also bought enough time for their team to get appropriate spawns and they weren't going to get cut off by the forward spawn. So I like that play quite a bit. And now they switched over to the Pharah Mercy. So for this second section of Hollywood, it does make quite a lot of sense. A lot of high ground that you can exploit. Hydration with the damage boosted rockets. Now Midnight's trying to take care of him, but there's just way too many openings here. Now both sound barriers going to be used by both these teams. Ultimate's still on the board for a lot of them. Now Spirit's going to be moving in with the Dragon Blade as well. Swinging and missing, not quite collecting it. Miso with the 2K. It's Ritzy and Desro going to be falling to that self-destruct. That is beautiful stuff right now. It's going to be CLG just hammering it home as they're picking up the stragglers. Locke is very weak. He will end up falling to the DPS Lucio Mikado. And now we have it. A second kill as well for Mikado as he finishes up Faz. Pretty impressive stuff. The danger of holding this close, though, is it can immediately be turned 180 against you, just due to the spawners being so close for the attacking team. But we'll soon see. CLG seem to be in a very comfortable position so far.
Miso's really been impressing me with his Diva play, actually. Oh, X-Res is getting a lot of damage into Hydration, actually, there. But he gets healed back up, damage boost rockets, and they're going to dive onto Faz and Desro, force them out of position, and again, CLG in control of the cart. Rocket Barrage straight into Desro's face. He's backed off a little bit, but Spirit, what a nice reflect.
Here comes the Resurrect. Going to be resetting the fight up here for CLG. There's 6 players up now, and Desro is still not up for the team. Will be respawning shortly, but it's a bit of an unfavorable engagement. Pylyshyn just making sure they can't really do much. Faz gets a headshot onto Waffletastic, claiming that 1 kill for them. That's quite impressive, and that could be an opening that Rise Nation look to exploit. They're playing it quite passively so far, not really focusing down any targets. The sound barrier now used by CLG to prolong this fight out. Bit of a tempo sound barrier. Want to be keeping this fight going in their favor. And indeed, it certainly has, as they picked up quite a few kills here in the tail end of this fight. And Rise Nation, realistically, even with Midnight in the back and Desro just creating a lot of space here, it's not really an opportunity for Spirit to move in with this Dragon Blade that he's built up.
One of the problems that we saw when Immortals were playing against CLG is, what do you do with this Dragon Blade when you have it? You really need to focus the Pharah Mercy combo, but they're almost impossible to take out with a single Dragon Blade. If you've got no other support and they're so high up in the air, they're just going to use their abilities to drift away from you and separate out the distance. They need a bit of, either a bit of help or to focus the targets on the ground, but he has been taken out. Retzi doing a great job. Couple of headshots. He's actually had a really good success rate of putting damage on this Pharah Mercy combo. And now Midnight, going to be pressuring down Hydration. Probably not going to get a decent barrage off at all. Waffletastic misses a pulse bomb there, can't quite stick it. And Rise finally going to be able to send this one moving forwards.
All off the back of that 1 pick onto D. Couldn't get the Resurrect off for his team. He's forced back to the respawn queue, so Rise going to be pushing this in now into the final moments of the second checkpoint. Only a minute left on the clock for them, but they do have plenty of ultimates to use. It's definitely not over just yet. With a self-destruct, I can imagine them reinitiating in with the Tranquility and taking this quite aggressively. Let's see if they decide to do that. Onto the back lines, Locke now going to be popping off his Tranquility. Self-destruct used, and that's not actually going to be enough. The Tranquility can't heal through that much burst damage. He ends up falling again. That's a super important kill. Not letting CLG get the Resurrect for this tail end of the engagement. Self-destruct used on the repeating end of CLG there, but it's not going to be good enough for them. Using the Primal Rage in the final moments just to basically force Ice Shiny all the way back. They're going to be pushing the cart in. Wonderfully enough. Oh, look, that is a huge Resurrect there by D. I wasn't actually expecting him to get that into the tail end of the fight, but Ice Shiny has bought so much time for the team. And honestly, Rise Nation, what do you do against this? You're currently fighting against all 6 members of CLG, and that is the danger of when you fight this close to the defender's spawn point. You're going to run into issues like that.
What a huge Resurrect. Game-changing. Absolutely pivotal there. Brought 3, was it even maybe 4 players back up into the fight, and they were able to turn that one completely. 5 seconds remaining. They need to just touch the payload to begin with. Enter the overtime. 2 seconds. I don't think they're going to get anyone there. Oh, and that is going to be CLG locking them out and taking the first map.
Super impressive res there by the... I mean, I say super impressive. It was just really excellently well timed because... if one player's spawn queue just came up a second later, it could have been the fight was taken, what, 3v6 and then completely failed. So it was honestly incredible timing for them to get that Resurrect off. And
it was almost
managed to win off the back of it.
Almost good that V died that early in the fight.
Yes.
To be able to just come back into it in the end. And it was a really nice D.Va bomb self-destruct by Midnight that set it up. And both of these D.Vas have actually... It used to be a thing, right? Back in the D.Va meta, you would have kind of almost like set smokes from CSGO. You would have like little angles that you line up and you'd
bomb up.
Yeah, and you'd send in your self-destruct.
Yeah.
But, and then you used to have teams like Envious who'd pair that along with like a Reinhardt charge so that you've taken the shield out and you send in the self-destruct behind it. And they used to be really clinical at putting those two combos together. But now that you don't really have Reinhardts on the field that much, you're playing more around the shield downtime and really setting up like nice D.Va bombs into people. And it's not a combo that normally gets you very many kills, or not an ultimate really that gets you that many kills. But when it does, it can be really pivotal. And that first pick on the kind of looked like it had set up the fight for Rise Nation, but managed to come in at the end and res up those targets, absolutely saving it. So CLG take their map pick, which probably going to expect. That's the one that they felt the most comfortable on. And now the next map is going to be Lijiang Tower.
Rise Nation. This was their map pick, Lijiang Tower. I'm trying to think... Is this really the smart play by Rise Nation? They had a decent showing the other day against FaZe on it. But CLG were definitely looking like a strong contender when they played it in their game the other day. And I think they... Honestly, I would have preferred to have seen a Hanamura pick as the first map pick for Rise Nation, to be honest, because that at least gives a little bit of a buffer, and it's not as if like you're picking Lijiang Tower to sort of avoid it getting banned, because all the bans are taking out at the start of the picking process, right?
Yeah,
it's not as if like you're trying to remove it from the pool or whatever, or get it in early. So
it's just about the order.
Yeah, exactly. Hanamura was probably one of the better picks, I think, for Rise here, but we'll soon see. They could turn it around and completely surprise me.
Definitely the possibility, though, as we head into Lijiang Tower, that CLG takes this one as well. They looked pretty good when they were playing against Immortals. Immortals did manage to squeak it away. It went to 5 stages, but the same could be said for FaZe versus Rise Nation. That was insanely close on Lijiang. That went all to all 5 stages. Rise in the end managed to play, I think it was 2 rounds of Control Center, which was where they were pulling out the Reaper as well from Spirit.
Yeah.
And they tried it on a couple of other instances as well, like some small death ball team fights where he was just able to rip into people and get some nice shadow walks into them. But you got to expect that CLG have kind of done their homework, or at least were aware that they pulled it out yesterday, and have thought about how they want to deal with that. And also, it's not very good against the Pharah Mercy, which is going to be CLG's bread and butter.
So I mean, the composition that Rise are drifting towards is this triple DPS, which works well in control points, because control is very much finding the opportunities. It's quite open to finding opportunities with a triple DPS composition, but you're not really running a D.Va, and honestly a 2-2 might just be better against Hydration and D when on the Pharah Mercy. And here we are, they're going to be taking the first engagement. this section of Lijiang Tower. Maybe sending in a rocket or two. Hydration playing quite passive so far, just slamming in the rockets. Dashner is moving quite far forward as well. Prematurely places his bubble. Might get punished a little bit here, but both teams just not really taking any casualties just yet. And there we go. Spirit finds the first kill onto Pylyshyn. Rise Nation looking to crawl it ahead as they claim a second one as well. Looking very good for them so far, but Dashner's going to get knocked off, and this could honestly turn around in a moment's notice. What a Helix rocket from Midnight. Collects it onto D. That's exactly what they needed, and now Hydration is going to be lacking all the heals and damage boosts, which means this is most likely going to be Rise Nation's first capture point.
In this fight, in that opening engagement, Midnight was my MVP. He pocketed Lock so well, because Waffletastic was coming around on the flank, and he was their pincer in from behind as you were facing the Pharah Mercy up front. Yeah. And Midnight stayed with Lock, made sure that he was defended the whole time, instantly got the pick on him, and then runs in and manages to finish off a couple more picks, including that Helix rocket onto D, which was pivotal. So if he can carry on that, Rise are going to be in a good position.
Oh. And it's going to be CLG maneuvering their way around. Again, playing sort of back into the points. Now they're jumping into the backlines, the proper backlines, that is. Lock's in a bit of trouble, and they've actually found a kill as well. Pulse Bump's going to be sent out by Retzi, but I think it's too little too late. They've lost 3 players already on Rise Nation. And CLG are just happy to recontest, recap it up, and now they're going to be trying to pick off these stragglers, and Faz is going to be the next casualty. So there's a bit of a late spawner there as well for the Lucio player. There is plenty of opportunities for Rise Nation to counteract this as well, though. They do have Spirits, Dragon Blade ready. Midnight's got his Tactical Visor, which can be really imperative, actually, against the Pharah Mercy. But they need to be careful because D does have the res, so if he gets away scot-free, it's really going to bite them in the back.
When Retzi was playing Soldier on Hollywood, he was really good at focusing down D really early on in the fights. Now Midnight's on that role, and again, you still need to be prioritizing it. Waffletastic taken out of the fight again. Great focus fire from them. Look at D just hiding behind this power plant area, but he's been focused down. Retzi finds the pick.
That's excellent.
Tracer in onto the back. That denies the resurrect, and they're playing all around the point here, routing the entirety of CLG, and they're going to be able to recap it super close, backwards and forwards so far.
That's the power of triple DPS, isn't it? They didn't even have to use any ultimates realistically. Retzi, I think, might have used his Pulse Bomb, but other than that, they're holding on to Transcendence, Primal Rage, Dragon Blade, Tactical Visor, Sound Barrier, 2 support ultimates, plenty of damage building ultimates. They've got it all, really, and Rise, this is their sort of section to win now off the back of this. CLG going to be initiating onto the point to the best of their abilities. Dashner is going to be popping off the Primal Rage, just trying to contest it off for as long as he possibly can. Now the Sound Barrier as well by Rise Nation. Self-destruct gets sent into the back, does collect a kill onto Lock. Downside of running the Zen. Faz actually gets an environmental kill onto Mikado as well. So Rise Nation in a solid position to try and recontest this. But with D with the res, it's going to tempo it back into CLG's favor. Only slightly. Midnight is on the point. He's on point as well with that Helix rocket onto Pylyshyn, meaning that Rise Nation happy to just hold on to this for now. And really, that res didn't get as much value, I think, that CLG were hoping for.
Also, Hydration isn't getting very much value with Pharah at all. He's being locked out of the interior of this point, and then he's not able to do the damage that he wants. Now that he gets inside, though, easy 2 picks onto Spirit and Faz. But previously, they've been kind of holding Hydration where he is now, around the back of the generator, and D is kind of holding outside there as well. Retzi's been able to get in behind a couple of times, and Hydration's not really able to find the spam that he wants to get, so Rise Nation can just kind of deathball within inside the point and end up winning the fight on the ground. But if Hydration can poke in with these damage boosted rockets, it only takes a couple to swing a fight.
Absolutely. He's looking at a barrage to work with. Mikado with a sound barrier as well. Should be a decent enough damage mitigation. They're going to be taking the initiative, speed boosting as well. The tranquility by Lock, just keeping him nice and alive. And the barrage with the damage boost. What can you do against that? Dashner and Faz immediately get deleted. A final rocket finishes up Lock. Hydration on a 4K. Spirit did not stand a chance. And they do successfully defend it. Well, now it's going to be a late death as well for Retzi. So not the best positioning right now that Rise Nation are in. And CLG, they're in a driving seat 100% of the way. They've got Pylyshyn with a Primal Rage. You can stall out for days of that. Lee has a Resurrect available as well, assuming he stays alive in the fight. It's going to take a lot from Rise Nation now to try and win this out.
And, oh, they find the pick immediately
That's
onto Hydration if they needed any pick. Apart from that was the one that they wanted. But the
So
res comes in. Hydration back there. But they've essentially forced out the res really early in the fight. So that puts them a bit more on even footing. Waffletastic taken down. Dragon Blade possible from Spirit here. They're starting to turn it. Midnight with 2. Miso falls out of his mech and then goes down. They've used the Primal Rage just to try and keep players alive. The stalling is not enough. Hydration's starting to reconnect with D, but they're locked outside the fight and they have to fall to their doom. Rise Nation now in the driving seat.
That was insane. Honestly, it was either a pick on D or a pick on Hydration, and the decision to basically do a solo resurrect, which needed to happen because Rise were basically just slow-balling it in, and look at that! They can't even get themselves onto the point. CLG going to be losing this first round when they were looking so good into that moments there. All off the back of that, I don't want to say questionable res because I think it was necessary, but the fact that they just got picked up so quickly afterwards was not great for them, and that will be a pause.
Spirit apparently disconnected from Discord, so they're going to get him back in so that they've got everybody able to communicate. And yeah, I definitely agree with you. The Resurrect absolutely had to be used there because it's the final fight of the game. You know, it's incredibly pivotal. He can't really wait for anybody else to die. He has to bring up Hydration. They need the damage that comes from him. But the fact that Locke and others found the pick, because I'm sure that Midnight was also spamming. It was just that Locke was rewarded with the end kill, but it was great focus fire and just chip poke damage to be able to bring down Hydration really early on in the fight. They committed the res and then they were on equal footing and able to take it. And this stage could play out very similar. You know, it's all well and good having the Pharah Mercy, but if you take the fights right inside the point, they then have to play within the Winston range, within Tracer's largest damage range, so if you bring them in, you can deal with them easier.
This is one particular section of Lijiang Tower that I think is going to be favouring CLG moving into this, as there's a lot of opportunities for Hydration to pick up a few early players. The bubble gets forced out pretty early from Desro there just to soak up some of those damage boosted rockets, and it's going to be a nice little flank attempt. That is beautiful damage being put down by CLG. They immediately pick up Locke and Midnight. Rise, 2 players down. It's Retzi. Look at that. He just jumps off the edge. He realizes this is a fight not worth taking. He's going to respawn with the rest of his team.
Yeah, you really have to commit your shield there to deal with not just the rockets, not just the damage boosted rockets, but also the concussion blast, which threatens to drop you all into the Koi Carp Lake. And then they go for the house, and it's completely red. And Hydration's there on one side, Miso's there on the other, completely pins it. But now Rise Nation's starting to bring the fight a little more around that central column. The pagoda is where they're going to battle.
Hydration gets a environmental kill onto Locke to set open this fight. Mikado follows it up with Desro and Ice Shiny with the pound damage from his leap. Will bring down Retzi, and they're just jumping off again. Rise Nation having to reset these fights time and time again, and CLG is just not losing players to them. They're building up their ultimates, and now they've got quite a hefty advantage ahead of them. Hydration, I think, is not too on point with his rockets. He hasn't built up his barrage just yet, but part of that is, I think, just part of because he's playing a very passive sort of role here. But now they're going to be moving in. Rise Nation looking for an opportunity. Bubbles going to get committed by both these Winston. It's going to be Locke again, the first casualty, as Miso finds that first pick. 3 more kills apiece. They are definitely looking to be in the driving seat. Or are they? Rise Nation turning it around a bit with a few DPS kills. Mikado ends up falling, and that will force out the res here by CLG just to basically keep the tempo rolling.
But that just gives them a free reset in this fight, and they're already up to 60%. And the ultimates that are coming up here for Rise Nation really not that impactful. I mean, they've got the Dragon Blade and the Tactical Visor, which would normally be such huge ultimates, but they can't get themselves in a position to use them, and they're not really going to be able to take down Dio Hydration with them unless they bring them to the point.
Here we go. +1 was committed onto Desro pretty early on, forces him to use his Primal Rage. We're going to see the attack visor as well. He's by Midnight, but he gets immediately focused down by Hydration. Claims that 1 kill. The point is still being contested by Rise Nation, but eventually no players on the point mean it's going to be almost all over. Look at this. Is this really going to be 100-0 sweep? They are really slamming it home on the side of CLG. Hydration ends up falling to Midnight. His Pocket Widows has come out.
Are they even going to get the point, though? I don't think they're even going to be able to reach it. Retzi's got his blinks just up. They're going to be able to force the overtime there. But Midnight switched back over to the Soldier 76. Spirit with the Dragon Blade, though, and they've picked up D.
Yeah, that's pretty crucial now. He picks up a second one onto Mikado, meaning there's going to be no support ults used, but Hydration still commits the barrage in the end. Claims won't kill, but Spirit's going to be easily bringing him down once again. So only 3 players up for Rise Nation right now, and they're up against some pretty tanky compositions. Still going to be contesting it up. And they are eventually coming out on top in the end of this engagement. So it will be capped up by Rise Nation, and finally, with the final moments, they need to get that cap, but there's ample opportunity here for CLG to recontest this, recap it, and get a round at their belt.
And they haven't really got themselves in a position yet because they just got the spawners where they can post up and put poke damage onto Hydration and D and stop them actually approaching. And they've already reached the pagoda. Now they can play around it. And now they can put damage onto everybody. So they're going to take some kind of cover. They've still got Locke. Locke's been focused down so hard this entire. There's an environmental kill coming out from Faz. Miso with the dive, immediately demech.
This is pretty well played, actually.
Another one.
Yeah. They're playing around the quite well. Faz has actually managed to somehow find environmental kills against all these players. They de-suited Miso as well and pushed this little baby diva into the deep depths below. But now CLG, I mean, they've got loads of opportunities to repush this. D with the Resurrect as well. They're going to be initiating it in. Self-destruct moves into the back lines. Does actually claim a kill. Faz gets another one onto Mikado. What is he doing? What is CLG doing? Just falling into the grasp of Faz on Lucio. Can this man be stopped? And Rise already just being set up time and time again by these kills. Now, D does have a res, but look at that. Midnight onto Waffletastic. Rexy finishes up the Mercy player. And there's going to be no more resurrections. But really the important factor to consider here is with all these environmental kills, Resurrect is useless.
That's true. That is true. I wonder whether that's playing into their minds, but the ultimates are starting to be built here as well. They've got both of their support ults, and the pressure just hasn't been there onto Faz or Locke throughout these previous fights to force it out of them. Here comes the Transcendence though. Pulls Spom out, but that's not going to find anybody. You don't really have a support ult to reply with on the other side, other than the Resurrect, and he goes down.
Oh my goodness,
another fight that really should go the way of Rise Nation, and they're going to clean sweep it. Don't even lose a single player. They're playing this really well now that they're in control, and I don't think anyone's going to get there. If they push up here, there's no chance.
Dezo's got Primal Rage. Look at this. They can just basically film off the point for days. They drop down the bubble, moving it down, and look at that. They can just not even body block it. Waffletastic didn't stand a chance there. Just got absolutely munched. And it's the second round to Rise Nation. They take it from 0 to 100. Pretty impressive stuff. You can see why this is their map pick.
Definitely can, but both of these rounds have been on an absolute knife's edge. As if Rise don't win a single fight just to flip it early on, then CLG would have taken it. And both times they won the pivotal fight that they needed to, and then they've been really good at staying in control. Yeah, are we going to see the Reaper? This was the stage where Spirit was pulling it out more often than not with Midnight on the Zarya, and it looks like that's the composition they're leaning towards at the moment. It's a 2-2-2 setup, but haven't seen one like this for quite a while.
Yeah, this also shows me that, honestly, Rise Nation are probably doing their homework, because this control center section is the one sort of section that COG aren't comfortable running a Pharah Mercy on, and Reaper obviously being not the best pick against Pharah Mercy by a long shot just because of his short-range capabilities. And they're going to be taking a fight close quarters. Look at this. Spirit just moving in with the Reaper. He's going to try and Wraith walk away in the end. Midnight collects the kill onto Hydration. It's just a 1-for-1 trade for now. Neither side really getting a big advantage. Spirit's just going to be reloading up. He's got that Orb of Harmony on him to get those heals going. And I do like the Reaper pick in particular on this control section at the moment. Midnight now just leading the charge in. It's actually really nicely done because they've got Zarya to synergize up with it nicely. Midnight's already on super high energy because he's been putting his shields onto Spirit and leading him into the charge. And they're just finding the kills with it. It's actually really smart.
It's definitely playing well into the comp that CLG were running as well, where they have this weird Winston Roadhog with a McCree, and it's the front line is definitely better with Midnight and Spirit on these, and this control center, lots of walls to dodge behind as well. But now Shiny's made a change, so is Hydration, but for the moment they're just being held out completely. Spirit nearly up to a Death Blossom as well. They can combo a couple of these ults pretty well over on Rise Nation.
Absolutely, they've got Waffletastic with his Deadeye, but it's not really one that they could turn the tide of the fight. Rise Nation still building up their ultimates, but they're so close to almost every single one right now. Look at this, the initiation comes in by iShiny. There we go, that was actually a reflect onto the Reaper ult by Hydration. That's pretty impressive stuff. Ends up picking up that kill. Now the Graviton's going to get committed. Connects with off 3 of them. He's going to force out the Tranquility, but the burst damage from Rexy will bring down Waffletastic before he can get healed up. Rise forcing their way back. I don't know about that Tranquility by Locke, but it looks like they want to re-engage on the side of Rise Nation. Just buying a bit of team for them. Midnight he had a lot of charge, but not the HP pool to survive it. They're just going to contest the point for as long as they possibly can. And I think this might be just a reset for Rise Nation. Still, they find Hydration in the midst of it. This could be an opportunity for them to play off, as long as they play around Destro moving in, which they're not exactly doing. And it looks like that CLG are going to be in the driving seat for this one, picking up all of these players, and they are going to get the cap. But a lot of time was bought there from those final few players on the side of Rise Nation.
Up to 79%. They've got a couple of ults to recontest with. They can use the Primal Rage as an engage through this choke point and try and follow it up with the Tactical Visor, but they need to both iShiny out, or possibly just take down his shield. Oh, Rexy completely taken out though. Well, that's going to ruin it.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, these crucial picks are really just buying up necessary seconds, because the more time you're really buying at this stage when you're so far behind and you've got such a time deficit, is super important. So these early pickoffs, maybe a bit of sloppiness there by Rise Nation, just getting picked off by the fire strikes and the burst damage. But here we go, here's the initiation. Graviton Surge connects onto 2 of them. Do they have the damage to try and finish it up? Miso does bring down Retzi, but Spirit's definitely there onto iShiny as well. Finding a pick or 2. Sound barrier is used by CLG. Waffletastic with a great 2K. Picks it up. Hydration utilizing the Dragon Blade as well to its fullest. Finding almost a complete team wipe. It was actually just spawning in the nick of time, so the bell did not toll.
Desro now making the switch over to Reinhardt, so they've got the Rein v Rein, and that's going to allow them to approach much better than when he was on the Winston, and they're getting pretty close to a couple of ultimates as well, so this could be a fairly even fight across the board. Both teams have the Transcendence to play with. iShiny though with a massive Earth Shatter, catches onto 2 of them. Transcendence comes in, keeps a couple of them alive, but Hydration's already fallen. Shiny as well, and a little bit late on the trigger.
Honestly, wonderful positioning by Locke there. Hit right around the corner, just got out of range of the Earth Shatter, and he could just immediately answer with the Tranquility, meaning no kills off the back of iShiny's Earth Shatter. And look at this aggression by Rise Nation, leading it in. Xretzi with the 2K, brings down D. Both the supports going to be falling here, and this will be the recap for them. Still a decent amount of time built up for CLG here, but do they have the time? I mean, if they end up accidentally getting picked up again in this sort of lobby area, they're really not going to have an opportunity. And it's already only 10 seconds away from being Rise Nation's map win. Are they going to be able to get onto it in time? Waffletastic has the Pulse Bomb. Hydration's not even close to the Dragon Blade. It's going to be this initiation. Waffletastic does connect it onto Dashner, but the shield is definitely there. Now it's the overtime being ticked over. Waffletastic is going to be the first casualty as Retzi brings him down. It's going to be Reaper's Blossom going to be popped off as well. Hydration gets the reflect kill into Spirit once again, but the overtime's still ticking over. Do they have anyone on the point? The overtime is just dripping down. It's just D and iShiny, and it's not good enough. No one on the point to contest it. Means Rise Nation going to be taking it 3-0. Impressive stuff.
It actually was impressive because although each individual round was incredibly close, Rise always had the better end of it towards the end. Like when they were playing Gardens, they stayed in control. When they played the Night Market, they were able to completely outplay the Pharah Mercy and get a real clutch fight towards the end to flip that one completely over. And then when they were on Control Center, they outplayed them in terms of the composition that they brought to the table, and then the ultimate game, because as soon as they got to the end there, how do you fight against Desro's ult, Midnight's ult, and Spirits? You're engaging into 2 crowd control ults plus the follow-up, and they had the sound barrier on Faz as well. It's a fight that you're not going to win. You have to pull out some ridiculous clutch or reflect the Graviton or something crazy like that would have had to happen. And at that point, they're already 2-0 up, so I really didn't think that game was going to go so far over to Rise Nation, and each individual fight certainly didn't. It was very backwards and forwards, but you got the feeling that it was all kind of playing into Rise's hands. They had an idea of which fights they were going to win and which they were going to lose, and they clinched it in the end on each one.
Eichenwald is the next that we're going to be seeing here. I believe the teams are choosing, I think it will be CLG on the attack for first. So opting to try and potentially get a much better time than Rise Nation on the defense. I 100% think we're going to be seeing once again Pharah Mercy popping off. So because it is incredibly flexible for the first point in assaulting Eichenwald, so it does make an incredible amount of sense. We're just waiting for the final moments in the lobby, but we will be heading into this third map fairly shortly.
And CLG played this in their opening game of the quarterfinals. They picked Eichenwald, and it was a slammer against Immortals, to be honest. They pushed it towards halfway towards the final checkpoint, but weren't able to complete the map. They had a really nice play where they were running the Pharah Mercy the entire time, but then switched it up as soon as they lost the fight in the final stretch. So they knew that the Pharah Mercy, they didn't really want to take that into the inside of Eichenwald. Obviously, you're in enclosed spaces. It's not quite as good. They want the more tanky compositions where you can approach with the Reinhardt and use that kind of more crowd control ultimates. And then they had a really impressive hold on Immortals that was right outside the second checkpoint over the bridge. They just destroyed them. So they're definitely feeling themselves on this one. It's their map pick. They kind of have to win it as well, because the fourth map that they're going to be playing into here is Hanamura. That is got to be unexpected for them as well. And
how do you think?
Yeah, go on.
How do you think Rise Nation are going to proceed with Eichenwald? Because I'm not too sure of their performances on it in the past, but I can't really picture it as a map they're particularly strong with. It's definitely going to be favoring CLG 100%, but realistically, Rise Nation from the previous showings that we've seen on Lijiang Tower, at least, pulling out some of these pocket sort of picks, do you think it's not too far out of possibility that Rise Nation could potentially take it? I mean, CLG were looking very dominant against the Immortals the other day, but I mean, Rise Nation, they've had time to prepare. They can rewatch the VODs. They can learn from CLG's sort of tactics and playstyle.
That is true, yep. And it was one of the maps actually that went most over to Rise Nation when they were playing against FaZe in their quarterfinals. So both teams have played this in the quarterfinals, and both teams won it playing against their respective opponents. Rise were perhaps playing against some lesser caliber opponent, you know, comparing FaZe over to Immortals. But we'll see how that one works out. I think I would still give the edge over to CLG, and definitely they felt like they had the edge because they directly picked it into them. So we'll see how these compositions work out, but it was interesting to see Rise Nation on it as well. They tried some different picks. You know, they were running the more like tanky compositions, but also played the Reaper quite a bit on Eichenwald. So I definitely think, yeah. Okay. So, but that only really worked because they were playing it into FaZe, I think, who weren't running, as far as I can remember, weren't running at that point the Pharah comp as much. So don't know whether it's really something you can run into CLG when they're running the Pharah Mercy Tracer like this.
Okay, well, the initial setup is beginning, at least for Eichenwald. Again, map number 3. Currently, it's 1-1 for both these teams. Rise Nation versus CLG. Remember, this is the semi-finals, so the loser of this is going to be playing in the 3rd place decider map against Cloud9. Still got lots more Overwatch waiting for us later on today. So even after these games are all said and done, it will be ZP and Hex joining you guys in Twitch chat at home for the 3rd place match in the grand final, so definitely don't want to be missing that one out. But for now, we've got some top quality Overwatch, very close-knit games here between these two, I guess, they want to call them tier 1 NA teams, but I mean, CLG have definitely been showing up against Immortals, so I mean, who knows what we're seeing. You know, a few more results, a few more tournaments into their belts, we could potentially be seeing CLG and Rise Nation definitely up there.
Absolutely could. The triple tank coming out for now, though, from Rise Nation on the defense. Not running the... They're running the same as they were in Hollywood, so they're not going for the Diva, instead putting Midnight over on the Zarya. They're lacking a bit of ability to deal with Hydration and D, but that's going to be on Retzi.
Right now, quite passive plays. Hydration is just slamming in. Once again, the damage boosted Rockets. They're not running at Midnight on the Diva. This was a mistake they made on Hollywood, and they got punished for it heavily. Zeretzi is going to be getting the D-Mech onto Miso. Waffletastic also falls, so not a bad... What a hook onto D! That is disgusting. Spirit somehow just pulls Mercy out of the air, finds the pick. Impressive stuff by Rise Nation to get that defense.
Retzi was doing a really good job as well. Most Soldier 76s actually kind of struggle dealing with the Pharah Mercy because you have to put damage onto a target that's regenerating, no matter who you shoot at, and they're either playing from so far away that you're kind of tickling them, or they're right up in your face and then you have to worry about damage boosted rockets. But Retzi's doing a really good job at dealing with them so far, but there you go, cast the curse, he's been taken down.
And right now they're just trying to rely on Spirit with the hooks, but look at that hydration bar. It's going to be picking up and putting in a ton of damage. Desert ends up falling to it. Already got 2 picks, make it 3 as Locke's going to end up dying with that nano boost still ready to be used. And this will most likely be at least a cap here for Rise Nation, or for CRG I should say. They have ultimates as well to just storm forward even further into the streets phase here of Eichenwald. It's that big old castle. Waffletastic is super far forward. I'm not too sure what he's hoping to achieve back there. I mean, even if he dies in this position, it's not too bad because there's a huge amount of setup time in between capping this first and pushing actually into the streets. And he's just basically running rings around them, as you can see, just hopping and skipping across the gaps. And right now, the cart is going to be pushed up to the doors by CLG. High ground not really being utilized too much by Rise Nation, but they definitely got the ultimates to defend us with right now, Sideshow.
Retzi, I don't know whether he's been seen just yet. Drops down with the nanovisor. I don't think he was intended to give up the high ground there particularly, but the concussion blast came in. He finds 2 anyway. Mikado and Miso are going to fall. Working his way possibly around the back. No, decides to disengage actually, so they're not too bothered about getting the picks on Hydration and D as long as they stop the push.
Interesting though, there's going to be 0 ultimates online for Rise Nation here, with the exception of Midnight's Pulse Bomb. And Locke has immediately fell very low. He's forced to use his Bio Grenade pretty early on the high ground. That could be an opening for CLG to punish. Sending in the rockets. thick and fast. Lock already down to about half HP. Here comes the sound barrier now for CLG. They want to lead the initiative in. Still, Resurrect available on D, so there's a lot of opportunities for them to make it work. Right now, they're just playing under the bridge section. And Lock is in a very, very sticky situation. Gets basically hammered down with the rockets. Primal Rage popped off onto Pylyshyn as well. Should be able to take care of Retzi. Retzi just getting pummeled around all over the place. Finally will fall indeed. And CLG, I think, are on a crash course right now for the bridge. We'll be able to push this in.
Making their way across the castle at the moment. In terms of what they've got to deal with, Lock's moved over to the Zenyatta and still running this triple DPS strategy, seeing if they can get onto people. Spirit's got the Dragon Blade, and that's going to be a difficult one to get value out of. They can definitely go into the backlines and try and get Miso demegged and Mikado, get the kills there. A bit more difficult to get onto Hydration D, and again Spirit dives up into the air, uses his dash to get velocity, sees if he can get onto Hydration D, but just avoided so easily, and Spirit gets no value out of his Dragon Blade.
That is a poor Dragon Blade. I can see what he was going for. He wanted to try and focus down Hydration, but it just didn't end up working. But Midnight is going to be able to claim the kill onto him, so Rise are slowly bringing us back, and with Miso being knocked off the edge, Desro just clutching it out a little bit there for his team with the Primal Rage. Pretty impressive stuff. And still, they do have ultimates. I mean, this is the danger, right? When you're running the Resurrect, like environmental kills, you're just not going to be able to reset off because you can't resurrect people at the bottom of a lake. It just doesn't happen. They need to be dying on the point. So when you're constantly getting knocked off by environmental kills and things, it kind of devalues the Resurrect and the potential it can potentially have. Hydration gets a lovely cross-the-map kill with a rocket onto Lock. It's going to force out the sound barrier onto Rise Nation, moving even further forward. Hydration's just trying to play the right angles. It's going to be the self-destruct that connects onto Retzi, creating another opening for them. Hydration with the knockdown, concussion blast onto Desro, because he cannot actually climb back up, and nothing to really take care of Hydration means he's just free to lay down these high-damage rockets and collect the kills for his team.
And previously, when we saw CLG play this map, they're going to try one push here, see how far they can get it, potentially try and stagger it all the way to the end and complete it now. They've got the Resurrect, Sound Barrier, Pulse Bomb. Going to have the next two ults up as well. But if they don't manage it, they'll probably switch over to a more tanky composition. So we'll see how much value they get out of these ultimates. Probably going to commit almost all of them.
Absolutely. Might just go all in here. There we go. Pylyshyn going to be moving into the back with the Primal Rage. Waffletastic claims Desro's life. Can't get any more. Still hurting for the opportunity here. Miso once again plucks Midnight out of the sky. And it will be Hydration popping off his own barrage. Is anything going to really realistically stop CLG here? They're trying to wait for the spawners. Finally, the Tranquility is used here by Rise Nation to try and defend this. They've got a few players up as well. They've even got Retzi onto the high ground, but Hydration wants to try and take the fight straight to him. Damage boosted Rocket's going to be doing a decent amount of work. D now using the reset here with the Resurrection, just trying to basically ensure that CLG get a decent opportunity. Miso takes care of Retzi as well onto the high ground balcony. Now Spirit makes a little bit of a change onto the McCree. See if he can find and pop these heads off. Great pulse bomb by Waffletastic, however, does bring down a few final members of Rise Nation, and he's just going to be cleaning up for them. Tactical Visor, however, really just trying to pull out all the stops from Retzi. He claims that Miso, is he going to be able to get any more? Indeed, he does onto Mikado. So, actually super impressive there that they managed to defend that. I honestly thought that CLG were going to have a very good shot of taking that all the way.
That was super close. CLG almost did that. Hydration was battling the 1v1 against Retzi. If he had got help from Miso just a second beforehand, before he fell, then they probably would have won that. If you keep the Pharaoh up in that fight, you've probably won. But Miso wasn't quite able to peel for him. Just died to a couple of headshots from Retzi, and they managed to turn it. Look at that, Miso just dumps the self-destruct right at the top of the chandelier. Everyone forced to go try and hide, scurry off into corners. Deadeye picks out Mikado as well. He was at 65% of his ultimate, and the sound barrier on the other side comes out. Desro with 3-4 now, and he's able to clutch this for his team. They hold on with 1 minute left. Oh, look
lovely
at the
defense. Oh no, it's the stagger. Oh no, that's heartbreaking. That's literally 54 seconds. Feels bad, man. They've reduced that push now. That could have potentially been 2 pushes, but now it's 100% only going to be 1. Still, CLG are looking to just drive it in. They're going to take up a foothold in this inner sanctum area. They're going to be sending out a fire strike or 2 as well, searching for an opportunity. Shiny's very close to his own Earth Shatter. One more Fire Strike will be enough damage for him. That'll do it. He's got it. Now they just need to win the shield war, and it might just be a done deal for them. Pulse Bomb going to be coming down. They're in a bit of a sticky situation. They do have Midnight's particle barriers as well to deny the Earth Shatter. But there we go. He lays it down. Shiny doesn't connect a single soul. That hammer. They are going to be having to back off. Spirit. For some reason, he's flexed off onto multiple DPS heroes onto this line or point. Going on to the Reaper now in the final moments, and this literally do or die for CLG. They put the Nano Boost onto Shiny, along with the Sound Barrier, just trying to basically contest for as long as they possibly can, but he's just a walking pile of meat, and he's going to get focused down easily enough. And the overtime tick down, that'll be it. Rise Nation actually getting a very, very solid defense in the final section. Still, CLG actually had a decent attempt at that push, but and you know that final section of Eichenwald is very difficult to push into as well on its own.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to expect from CLG. They came close to being able to complete it, both when they started their first attack in and Hydration got picked, unfortunately, and they weren't able to clutch it out. The spawners came in, but they also almost completed it there. One ultimate goes better. If Shiny actually lands that, the mind games were coming in so much between him and Desro. Desro knew that he had it, and they're both flashing their shields off, dancing around each other, popping Zarya bubbles.
Yeah.
But Shiny whips it down, and Desro just gets the shield up with milliseconds to spare and saves all of his team. Locke came in with the Transcendence immediately afterwards as well, just to make sure that that fight was won for them, and they weren't able to complete it. But as you were saying, on Eichenwald, that's actually a fairly good win condition for them, especially given that CLG's defense was better than their offense when they played Eichenwald in the quarterfinals. So Rise have got a job cracking this, I think.
Absolutely, it's going to be a tough one for them. Pushing into that final section is always a tricky one, even after changes they made to the big door. Basically, as soon as it gets broken down, again, it's not going to get replaced anymore. It's just an open area, which means it is a lot easier to contest, and teams now can't actually afford to hold so close as they did in the past. Still going to be on this defense for CLG, running the Pharah Mercy as you'd expect, but Misa on the Diva, Shiny on the Winston, so tons of mobility alongside Waffletastic on the Tracer. Rise Nation, at least right now, pre-opting for a triple DPS composition. Who knows if they're sticking with it? They might choose to make some last-minute adjustments, but again, I think running this triple DPS, you're running into a lot of vulnerabilities. Are they really going to run Spirit on Reaper here against the Pharah Mercy combo? I think this is a mistake, personally.
Well, they're certainly investing themselves in winning the ground war. Perhaps the strategy here is just to completely ignore the Pharah Mercy and just leave them to do whatever you like in the top ground, play within Desra's bubble, and see if you can just demech and kill the tanks really early on.
Certainly attempting to do so. Contesting for now. Miso ends up claiming a kill onto Desra. Rise's initial push has been completely stunted in the end, and they've got nothing to do with Hydration. He's just ruling the skies, essentially. Raining down these damage-boosted rockets. Spirit does not stand a chance. Retzi moves into the back with the Tracer. Tries to make a few plays happen, but doesn't quite work out for him as he gets basically slammed down with the rocket once again. Locke is in a very sticky situation. Only about 2 bars of HP. The barrage gets committed. Comes out onto 2 of them. Does end up finally going down to Faz. So this is looking like a pretty solid king attempt so far, at least. But the players coming in, and D was about 1% away from his Resurrect. It's going to be a reset fight once again, Sideshow.
Oh, D's going to get taken down as well by Spirit and basically the spam from the entire team. And Desro did a great job at focusing down Hydration there, along with Faz when he went and used his barrage. And you got to say that that looks like a bit of an overcommitment, because now they've just opened the door for Rise to come in, and Spirit's decimating them in this fight around the point. Certainly, their attempt at taking care of the tanks led to Spirit eating through Shiny and Miso. And here comes the Resurrect. They've put a couple more players out, but instantly decimated that Death Blossom.
Death Blossom just deleting these heroes off the map for now. 2 ticks going to be going the way of Rise Nation. Very happy little attacking attempts right there. Utilizing Spirit on Reaper. Honestly, I wouldn't expect it to have worked out for them. And now they're going to be moving into the Streets phase with it. So, again, another impressive... If they manage to make this work, because it's something that seems so open to me. Midnight with a Helix Rocket onto Hydration of all the picks. That's a mid-air straight up with the Helix Rockets. Finding that kill. Beautiful stuff in the end. Just stalling it out a little bit longer. Again, it does take a little bit of setup time to get them through this initial gate, but as soon as they are through it, any kill really helps at this stage. And Spirit's just waiting patiently around this corner for the opportunity. Gets absolutely destroyed by Waffletastic. Hydration's definitely there as well, putting in these long-range rockets. A bit of trouble there as Midnight tries to run away. Retzi moves into the back with a post bomb as well that doesn't actually connect onto anyone. Now the soundbar is going to be used by Rise Nation, trying to find an opportunity. Self-destruct by CLG doesn't quite connect onto absolutely anyone, but he is getting pressured quite heavily. He's only about 50% away to his res, so he's not too close away. He's getting bullied in the air by Desro with his Primal Rage, but not getting the full value, I think, that he wanted out of that one.
A lot of these teams, when we've seen them come up against CLG, and this has been a recurring theme whenever the North American teams have been playing against Pharah Mercies, is that the Winston really hasn't been using that as the focus. But when you look at the Koreans, particularly Miro, I mean, he will really take it as his responsibility partly to deal with the Pharah Mercy as well. And Desro has also done the same. You've seen him really try and focus on getting rid of the Hydration, whether that be jumping up and using his Tesla Cannon or using his Primal Rage to do the same. And that's been a big shift in them dealing with it, particularly on the first point, but he tried to do it there as well. This is tough, though, for them. They're playing on the low ground. Spirits had to switch off to Genji, and currently they don't have anything to do with Hydration indeed. They've managed to stay alive for a long time, and they've both got their ults up now.
Absolutely. It's almost 6 ultimates across the board for CLG here on this defense, so it's going to be a tough ask for Rise Nation to try and push their way through. Rocket's being sent in by Hydration once again, trying to lay down the early damage, create an opening for the team perhaps. Miso's also just waiting on the high ground patiently, and they're just trying to deal with this Pharah Mercy combo by sending Desro in, but it's going to be forcing out the Tranquility now as well. Good pulse bomb from Retzi into the backlines has brought down Waffle-tastic, but that's the only pick they're going to be getting, and they've already lost 3 players on the side of Rise Nation. They actually end up doing a solo res, only for Waffle-tastic to try and bring him up there. Maybe felt it was more worthwhile, but I don't know if I'm too keen on that solo res, to be honest. Waffle-tastic playing Soldier 76 could have easily sprinted back to the fight.
That was also to keep V alive as well. She was.
I see.
He was being pressured. The Mercy was being pressured by Retzi on Tracer and used it just for the invulnerability as well. I mean, they could have both died and still be fine in this fight. I think they would have got back into the fight by now, but it was more just to make sure that nothing bad was going to happen. But Retzi already pressuring the again, and that's going to be the first casualty.
That's pretty big for him. Now Desro moves off. He's going to be popping the Primal Rage off. He's going to take it as his personal responsibility to pummel Waffle-tastic into the ground. Picks up a 2k with the Primal Rage. He's a very, very angry scientist indeed. It will be almost a complete wipe. In fact, I think it is a complete team wipe on the side of CLG. Rise Nation happy to just slam it home. And now if Midnight gets into a solid position with this tag visor, he's waiting on the balcony. This could be beautiful for them.
Waffle-tastic as well tries to take the 1v1. Self-destruct comes out, but that's not going to find anything. Miso can get back into his mech. Pylyshyn using the Primal Rage, just going to batter them away a little bit. And here comes Midnight's tactical visor. See if he gets any value out of this one. No! Pylyshyn taking him out.
Got knocked off the edge there. Another environmental kill for Pylyshyn moving it off. Now the Tranquility is going to be used by Locke, but Desro picks up another 2k. Just running these players down. Hydration is in a bit of a sticky situation. Just trying to play the underside of the bridge. Does wrap all the way around. Pops off the barrage, collects 1 kill, but it's not going to be good enough. Now just a single player. Miso on the point to try and contest for the side of CLG. It's not looking too good for their hopes and dreams, but there comes D with a beautiful resurrect. The players of CLG playing that perfectly. Trying to play the low ground. He's going to get jumped on by Desro. Desro's on an absolute mad one. This guy is having such a high impact on Winston right now. It needs to be said. He's going to be trying to take the next pick onto Mikado with the jump jets. The damage, that is big as well. Picks him up before he can get off the sound barrier.
Desro has had a hell of a game this whole series. Has been playing really well on both the Reinhardt and the Winston. And he's showing it now. He's destroying them. Whenever they're coming in, he's got that constant damage. Save for his team as well. Great peeling for them. Focusing down the and Hydration, both gonna fall. And they've kind of opened the way here for Rise to come in. And the switch off from Spirit onto Reaper could be deadly.
Absolutely. Now this is the perfect time to be doing it. Utilizing those close corridors. Close angles as well. Really, it's just Reaper's territory. But it's interesting because Spirit is just a very comfortable pick for him, is the Reaper role. And a lot of teams are sort of neglecting that in a lot of these situations where you can actually run one quite well. Now both players, Desro and Pylyshyn, are going to be running. The Reinhardt, good post bomb from Waffle-tastic, is going to deny this push any further forward. Still searching for these kills. Mikado with the boop will bring down Spirit. Second kill for him as well, as Midnight's going to be falling. So a good defense by CLG, just stopping it before it even starts. There's only a minute left on the clock here as well, Sideshow, for Rise Nation to try and get an attempt.
one of the big reasons that people don't like running Reaper now in this meta is that the D.Va completely eats any of his attempts, and the Roadhog can win 1v1s just by getting the hook out onto him as well. So almost anything a Reaper can do, a Roadhog could do as well, or potentially better. You've got a slightly higher DPS if you just run in, but you're playing into a D.Va as well that can eat a lot of your shots, so it is still difficult for Spirit to get value out of this pick. He has to be careful with his timings and work off the distraction of the rest of his team, and as you said, there's only 40 seconds left. Not really that many high impact ultimates as well. They're close to their support ults, but not going to have them just yet.
Well, they're going to be initiating in. The self-destruct comes out along with the sound barrier for Rise Nation, trying to defend it, their abilities. Not finding the too many picks here. Retzi brings down D into the back lines, still running it down, trying to play the shield wall. Midnight with a great shield saves himself. There's CLG once again with the defense. 10 seconds remaining for Rise Nation to make a push, and I think it is all pretty much over for them. They've got no one that can really get there in time. Spirit's going to try his hardest. Lock pops of Tranquility to contest in the final moments, but he's going to get pushed back by Hydration's Whole Hog, and that will be that. It is CLG's map to take. Indeed they will on Eichenwald.
Well played by them in that final portion. That's where games on Eichenwald are won or lost, and CLG had a really good attempt to attack. Almost got it all the way to the end, but the defense, especially in this final stage, is really good. Especially when they pull Hydration over to the Roadhog. They're really making compositions with him on Roadhog work well for them. Even when they look a little strange just on paper. Play of the match, though, does go to Spirit. He's certainly pretty much the only Reaper that I can think of who's trying to make it work in this current patch. I've seen a couple of people back in Apex last season, but not any that come to mind this season just yet either. And getting good value out of his ultimate there, but in the end it wasn't enough, and particularly in that final stage he got absolutely decimated, particularly by Miso, who I think has been playing a really good D.Va throughout this series. Desra's probably been, well, throughout the tournament actually, Desra's probably been getting the better end of the direct main tank matchup, but Miso's been a really solid D.Va for CLG that ties together their composition with the Fire Mercy and the Tracer.
Interestingly enough, the next map we're going to be seeing is actually Hanamura. So assault maps, not something that you see too often, and it's actually quite an interesting pocket pick by Rise Nation here. So if there was any opportunity for them to turn this defeat around and bring it back to a 2-all, it would be this time right now with Hanamura, because there are some teams that aren't comfortable with the assault maps in general, mainly because it doesn't favor their playstyle, and you need to sort of tailor your playstyle to the map as opposed to the other way around.
And Hanamura is an interesting one as well, because most teams, when they do go over to this kind of thing, prefer to go over to Volskaya or have strategies for Volskaya. Yeah. That seems to be the 2CP map, the assault map that we've seen teams go to most often. But Rise going out on a limb and deliberately picking Hanamura in TLG, so they've definitely got a plan here for this one. They're not just picking it on a whim. They've got some kind of strategy in mind, and Volskaya is going to be our decider map should they take it. So this one's going to be super interesting, especially to see any adaptation from CLG, because these assault maps are definitely you get out strategically what you've put into them in terms of preparation, and you can definitely prep against CLG in terms of the composition that they're bringing to the table. You know what they're going to be playing, so I'm expecting something specifically tailored here. I think this is they've gone back to the blackboard or the whiteboard, and they've crafted some beautiful magic that we're about to witness. I believe, Bren.
You believe in the Hanamura pocket pick. So do I. I think assault maps are a sort of underrated aspect of Overwatch in the fact that they allow a lot more strategic depth, like micro and macro plays and stuff across the board, just because of the way they're played. And a lot of teams, I think a lot of teams in Overwatch just prefer to just slam their heads against each other and see who comes out on top with raw DM, as opposed to just trying to find ways to break out compositions and things. So Ult is always an interesting one to watch for me, and it's going to be an interesting one indeed. One thing I will note as well is completely unrelated to the game, but it's related to you guys at home winning fat prizes and giveaways. If you head on over to overwatch.cyberpowerpc.cevo.com/giveaway, you can actually win yourself an i7 top-of-the-line i7 processor, bearing in mind. It's a Big Daddy processor, a few SSD cards, and even a few keyboards. So, and you can enter that. You don't have to do any of the prediction stuff that we were talking about earlier. It's literally just following the channel and tweeting and things like that. So it's everything you can do for multiple entries and increase your chances of winning some of those prizes we've got going on.
I need the i7, Bren. I need it.
I know.
My PC is
that
struggling.
Computer in that outhouse is is having a nightmare, isn't it? The moisture just seeps into it.
It
Keeps
genuinely
crashing
did.
all the time.
It
Yeah,
genuinely did.
That's
In
why I
winter,
mentioned
it broke it. Yeah. But thankfully, I've got it back on track. You know, dehumidifier, they work wonders. They're absolutely magic. Not that I need a dehumidifier when I'm in the middle of California on the beach, but the tide.
Oh, of course,
that's what it is.
That's where you are.
It's the tide.
Definitely not in the middle of rural England, in the back of a garden.
No, I don't know why you think that. What's that, Dad? You want the rake? Yeah, all right. But
not now, Dad. I'm casting.
But the pick here of Hanamura is especially interesting to me as well. If we bring it back to the game, if we tie this back in, because they've got they could have chosen to go towards something like Volskaya. Like they had the choice. If they wanted to pick one of the assault maps, they don't have to go for one or the other. The other thing to point out about assault maps is that although I agree with you in that they add some extra strategic diversity, like you can definitely run executes, and if you have a better plan for the map and what you want your team to be doing on all the stages, then you're going to get more out of it. You're going to have a better chance of winning. But they do have a large dose of variance in them, in that if you end up overcommitting to the first fight, like a lot of the Korean teams play them super aggressively on point A. They'll try and just throw bodies into them, throw ultimates at them, but that sets you up super riskily because that can snowball so quickly into a point B obliteration. Like if you've got no ultimates to defend point B, you just get snowballed immediately. So it's a real balance of how much you actually want to invest in defending this first point while still being able to fall back to point B. And it's incredibly tricky to get good value out of the assault maps, even if you have prepared for them, which I think is one of the reasons why we haven't seen the North American teams do so well on them when they play in intercontinental fights between, like, when we've seen them play Apex and stuff like that. They tend to get rolled over a little bit on these maps. It also comes down to practice, of course. But Rise clearly have a plan here, and we're going in.
Absolutely. It does look like an interesting one. If they do stick with this opening composition, I doubt they will. They're probably going to make some changes. However, it's not unusual to see Widowmaker being picked for this first attack, actually. I will say that much on Hanamura. And this could be part of their pocket picks. COG, on the other hand, if they stick with this, I can't see it happening. Surely not. Are they going to go with the Orisa? They're running around it. No. They switched off to something normal now. Waffletastic is on the Junkrat, but he's just sat in spawn, so that will be probably a last-minute change as well, because I was going to say, I mean, you can run the Junkrat in theory, but I don't think it works out too well for them. I don't know what he's doing. If you take a look at Waffletastic, there we go, he's finally switching off to a proper role there. So the Soldier 76 just going to be running himself around, and I think this is quite a standard setup on the defense here for CLG. As we mentioned before, this is something they like to run. They like to run a sort of semi-dive with the Winston and D.Va, and also hydration on the Roadhog.
Yeah, in terms of, I wonder whether they've got something practiced for their attack or their defense. Normally on Hanamura, it's the defensive pocket strategies that come out. And for now, they're going for this triple DPS attack, but with Retzi on the Widowmaker, you can get a lot of value out of Widow if you run it on attack. The other team isn't expecting it, but see if he can pull anything out of the bag here for his team.
Absolutely. It's a defensive hold so far by CLG. Just waiting patiently. Good bio grenade. Collects one kill onto Spirit. And the follow-up damage is definitely there for CLG as they're just claiming the kills that they need. Xresi still on the Widowmaker. Just going to be keeping eyes on those line of sight angles. CLG need to be careful. That's probably part of the reason why they're running such a defensive setup, is that they don't want to give away any easy pickoffs to Rise Nation to completely play off. So you can see Miso's just not even peeking, trying to build up with his Bunny Blaster, just waiting for his mech to build up naturally. And I think this composition does actually favor running against the Widowmaker quite well, in that you've got a lot of tankiness, innate tankiness. You're not going to risk getting one shot too badly.
Waffletastic can definitely play more passive as well, and they can kind of wait until players go around the point and then try and take the engagement. Hydration with the first pick onto Desro. And Red Sea looks like he's going back to the spawn to change. He's had a couple of shots that he's been able to get off, but as you were saying, not able to find the actual picks because mostly it's only the tanks that are peeking their heads over, and you're not going to take down Miso or Hydration or iShiny just by getting a single shot on them.
Absolutely. The tankiness coming into favor really almost entirely here. There is opportunity for Midnight to get an early kill with the Pulse Bomb. That could lead in the initiation. He's going to lay it down. Doesn't quite find the kill he needs, however. Waffletastic is the one to come out on top, as Spirit's going to be falling to the Helix rockets. 76 hero. Hook's going to be sent out, but doesn't quite connect. Doesn't actually need it. Misa's going to find a kill regardless onto Retzi.
And so far, Rise Nation on their pick have not lived up to expectations. We'll see if they've got something amazing to pull out in the defense, but first step, you need to be able to cap point A at the very least here. 2 minutes still left on the clock.
Absolutely going to be leading in the initiative. This time, Pylyshyn moves into the back lines. Tries to go for an opening. It's going to be faster, brings him down, but a good hook from Hydration brings down Desro. Now the Dragon Blade comes out, but too little too late. Spirit thankfully doesn't lose the ultimate as he dies, but it's not going to be good for their team fight perspectives. There's only a minute 30 remaining. Passes on the point, gets taken down by the attack visor of Waffle-tastic. It's looking good so far for CLG on his first defense. I don't think Rise Nation were really expecting this much of a put up here from this team. But they are honestly playing it super well. The entire intro here of Hanamura when they were defending first, not giving up any sightlines, and they're just playing completely around the point.
This time, though, massive ultimate advantage. They just did a dry push the last couple of times to build these up, and now they've got all of their ults. Spirit's not going to die with his Dragon Blade, hopefully this time, and they're going to be able to get value out of the two of them. Midnight starts it off engagement as both of those players fall. Hydration and the... Not on the Pharah Mercy, but doesn't help about this time. Locke has fallen, though. Didn't use his Transcendence to keep everybody alive, and instead, it's the sound barriers exchanged on both sides, and this fight's been way more even than it should have been.
Yeah, absolutely. With Locke falling so early, this could honestly be anyone's game right now. Still, the point's going to get contested. Mikado's trying his hardest. Pylyshyn's also there. Are they going to try and contest this, or are they just backing off? CLG, they decide to just back off and get a last defense, which is the smartest play, to be honest. No way with the last few stragglers they'd be able to recontest that point. But no, it was looking a bit sketchy for a second, and I think they ended up having to use too many ultimates than they actually wanted there, as Locke ended up dying pretty early on. So now they've only really got the Transcendence to lead the initiative, and they're not waiting any time whatsoever. Already moving into the back lines, trying to focus down Hydration. The Dragon Blade moves into the back. Spirit's going to be claiming D as the first casualty here with the Dragon Blade. Can they claim any more? Locked with the follow-up onto Hydration. There's definitely the amount of damage with the Discord Orb is being put into place. Capping up the point. They've already got at least one tick. Fantastic now, forced to contest with the point to try and cause a bit of trouble. Somehow gets Midnight there with the Helix Rockets before he dies, and also picks that Desro. So it's actually not too bad for the side so far. CLG is still trying to contest it for now. Fast is the only player really on the point, and I think was that a nano boost popped off onto Hydration as well as he switched onto the main the final ones? I think it might have been.
Well, they've managed to flip it either way, and it's really unfortunate actually that Desro went down. He traded with the player that they were going to kill, and if he played slightly more passive or been able to get a bit of healing or whatever, had managed to get his Primal Rage, anything, if he'd stayed alive there, that fight goes very differently. But as soon as their first tank, or only tank, dies, it's has to call the disengagement for Rise Nation. They've got 2 ticks though, so this last fight, or next fight, sorry, they've still got 3 minutes, should be much easier for them.
Certainly going to try it. Spirit attack visor used by Waffle-tastic. He finds Spirit straight off the bat, but it's 2 immediate kills going to be responded for Rise Nation. Still trying to play the point. Pylyshyn moves in. Primal Rage ends up failing for him. So self-destruct as well being popped off here. Desro's just trying to play the point to the best of his abilities, and it looks like CLG will be able to defend this. The self-destruct just pushed them off the point, and the reset is called once again by Rise Nation, so they're being forced back off here. But they do have quite a lot of capture time. They've already got 2 ticks. All it really takes is 1 successful push where CLG aren't ready to contest the point, and this will be Rise Nation's game to win by long shot, to be honest.
They're going to have both of their support ults up, so they can use one of them to engage and one of them to sustain the fight. Mikado is probably going to reply as soon as they engage with the sound barrier. I prefer the order being sound barrier then Transcendence there, because then Locke can choose if he gets pressured down, but Spirit's the first to fall. That Bionic Grenade takes them. They force out the Blizzard though, and that's a hugely impactful ultimate. They don't use anything for it, so they managed to get that one. A little bit unfortunate from their point of view, I think, that Mikado didn't invest anything as well. They kind of got shut down way too quickly for Mikado to even think about investing the sound barrier there. But they get a reasonable end result of that dry push. And now, with 1 minute and 50 seconds, they've got some good ultimates.
Do indeed. Definitely opportunities for Rise Nation here. Ultimates across the board. They've got 2 support ultimates for 1 to use and utilize, whereas CLG really only have the sound barrier. So this is their fight to win, 100%. Desro's going to be laying down the bubble pretty early on. They're going to be rotating around the point, playing it up, contesting it. That's going to force CLG down. Fantastic does bring down Desro. The Dragon Blade used as well. Outside of Spirit, just seeing if he can force down these players. Hydration is going to end up falling almost immediately. Midnight, however, ends up killing himself in the process as well. So Rise Nation again losing another fight, and he ended up using, I think about, what was it, 2 free ultimates there. As Faz used the Sound Barrier, Spirit used the Dragon Blade, and Expressy with his own little tactical visor, not getting the most, I think, out of that fight that they were hoping for.
I don't know why Locke didn't commit to the fight. He must have been held out in main or something, but that Transcendence was their ace in the hole to keep Retzi and Spirit alive and get value out of their ultimates, but he didn't go in with them, and I'm really not sure why, but they've saved it for another push. There's going to be something to reply with here. They've got a lot of ultimates to defend with as well, and Retzi dies, Locke taken down before he can even use the Transcendence, and Rise kind of look like they're just throwing bodies in at the moment without a plan.
Yeah, this is super questionable. The self-destruct comes out from Miso in the final moments, just going to be refreshing his mech back up, but they're just losing so many players on the side of Rise Nation. I really understand. I mean, this was their map pick. I would have thought they would have had a better game plan than this, because these final moments, honestly, it just seems like they're feeding in one at a time. Part of it, I think, is as well that Hydration is cutting off a lot of the members of the team as they're trying to initiate, so they're getting segregated by Maywall really effectively, and Rise Nation really just don't know what to do as soon as a part of their plan is essentially missing every single push they make in. But they're going to be going for an attempt, possibly the final attempt here, Sideshow, as we're going into the final moments of this round.
And again, the Maywall locks out Locke, and he's not able to commit with his Transcendence. So Spirit immediately dies. Dragon Blade taken out of the fight. Tactical Visor also dropping as well as Retzi's taken down. And as overtime ticks, this is definitely going to be a stall for CLG. They're going to be able to hold on to this one. 80.7% is the marker that they've left on the floor.
Not a bad set of pushes by Rise Nation by any means, but they would have 100% preferred to get the actual point itself, because now they're going to be against wall, essentially. This was their map pick. They didn't show a particularly strong showing on it. The CLG have definitely looks like with a better team so far, at least in these engagements, but we'll soon see if Rise Nation can pull out a decent defense here as we're swapping the sides.
If anything, I think this should be where Rise exceed expectations, because if they came into this just feeling like they were more practiced on Hanamura or just had a better shot at it when they were running the 222 or the triple DPS, I'd be very surprised at this outright pick of Hanamura. And then going into Volskaya as well, I certainly expected them to be a bit more, have a bit more of a plan, especially when they were attacking point B. It seemed like they were kind of mixed up when to do their dry pushes and force out ultimates and when they actually wanted to engage, and they didn't have an answer for the Maywall as well. It didn't even look like they tried to bait the Maywall out with like Desro going forwards, baiting out the Maywall, and then jumping back up top to meet the rest of his team as they push top right or something like that. There's any of these plays where you try and bait out the Maywall didn't really seem like that. They were just kind of one-track mind of, we're going to push from here, let's see if it works. We'll probably use a support ultimate to try and save people if we're actually going to commit to it. And it didn't really end up working out for them whatsoever.
Well, it's CLG's turn to attack, as we mentioned before. They're running the Pharaoh Mercy, it looks like. Again, a classic combo for CLG. They love this sort of composition. They're going to be running it alongside iShiny on the Winston. Mikado is running a Hanzo, most likely temporarily, just going to be checking the corners and the angles with that Sonic Arrow. And the teams look to roll out and find their openings. Going to be off the back of Hydration's damage boosted rockets, I think, the majority of the time here.
See, as they get in, they're able to breach this choke point fairly easily with both of their tanks, able to pop down the shield and the defense matrix, allow Hydration and D to get in. And focusing down Desro very quickly there. All 6 players, it seems, shooting at him, and he falls pretty quickly, but Rise have got a couple in return. They're focusing down the tanks, and Miso's demaged, immediately taking down. Mikado falls as well, and they've essentially just left the Pharaoh Mercy to do their business. Go on, you enjoy just sitting on the top of this little building, and we'll kill the rest of the team.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the ways to deal with the Pharaoh Mercy is to just completely ignore them. Just win the ground battle, and suddenly you're going to be left with a lot more uselessness when it comes to that Pharaoh Mercy. But the initiation comes in again by the teams. We're going to see which way they can potentially take it here.
Fighting around the fight, Waffle-tastic with the first pick, but Midnight into the, and that takes out any potential of building the Resurrect. He really wasn't able to get that much healing or damage done in the first fight, so only at 60% here, and Rise Nation for the most part looking decent to hold on. Retsy's going to be close to this tactical visor. Use the nano boost as well, but he's so weak. He needs some peel. Gets the bionic grenade, so his health is up. Into Miso as well. Surely going to be able to get that D-Mech, but struggling to get much more value out of it. And Hydration just pops his head around, lands a couple of rockets in, and they're able to get the pick there. So this is an opening here for CLG. They've lost a lot of health on their Pharah Mercy combo, and V is getting pressured down pretty solidly by Spirit, but on the rest of the fight, it is going their way.
It's looking pretty good for them so far. Still being contested to the final moments, but not quite looking too well so far. Spirit's just contesting to the final moments here, but it looks like this will be going CLG's way on the attack.
And now they've got to take it to above 80.7%. They don't have to cap out point B completely. And it's not that situation where it's just the first tick either, because Rise Nation were able to put a lot of time on the point. Easily got 2 ticks. Whoa, instant force onto Desro. They're going to pile into this one. Sound barrier used at the same time as the barrage as well. Both team sound barriers fading now as the self-destruct comes in. It actually finds the who had the resurrect up as well, so that's going to be a pivotal pick there for Rise Nation. Able to storm in. Self-destruct coming out on the other side as well. Also finds the kill as Faz falls. Rise Nation are looking like they're losing this one, even with that pick onto D, so the resurrect wasn't in. CLG are coming out on top. Miso's playing excellently, peeling for the rest of his team, able to get in onto everybody, and now the Inhydration coming back into the fight in the later stages. Spirit's doing the best he can. Pulse bomb onto him, and then a D-Mech, but Waffle-tastic and Hydration, and now with the Resurrect committed here, that actually pulls Miso back into it. He can get back into his suit. They haven't actually got any time on the point. Rise Nation are doing a really good job of holding it here, but for the most part, this is going the way of CLG, and it just seems inevitable that eventually they're going to be able to get the time on the point. Again, V is going to be focused down, but he wasn't anywhere near, and they're starting to get the camp time. Rise have just done such a good job, though, at making sure they stay alive and keep focusing down, like focusing people onto the point and keeping it, keeping this timer as low as it possibly can. It's not even past the first tick, and CLG have already wiped them multiple times.
I have returned. I'm relieving you from your solo casting duties. I apologize for leaving you for so long, but here they are. CLG just returning it back. Shiny popping off the promo rage now into the tail end of this fight. I don't know, it's a bit questionable because Rise Nation is still getting this defense on board, and there's no attempt being made by CLG. In fact, Shiny is just forced to just back off, jump off the edge of the map and reset it. And CLG, from what it looks like, not being able to get a decent foothold onto this map whatsoever.
Man, they had such a good foothold, though. That's the problem. They just couldn't actually get to the top of the rock, if we want to use that metaphor. They kept getting pushed off the top of the rock by Rise, who just staggered players onto the point repeatedly, and now they've got a huge barrel of ultimates to work with. But CLG looked in control of that fight right from the beginning, but couldn't convert it into actual ticks or percentage on the point.
And moving in now, though, trying to basically force them all the way back into this top right area. It's going to be a double kill with a post bomb from Spirit. That is pretty big. The attack visor from Red Sea as well. Alongside the Nano Boost is going to be finding 4 more picks for them. Surely this is not going to be a full hold for Rise Nation. I mean, we've still got 3 minutes left. Maybe I'm calling it a little bit too soon. Hydration picks up a 2k, actually. He will probably go down. Indeed, he does. The Sombra pick of Midnight, but still, very well done to Rise Nation to hold on for this long, and they do have ultimates to use as well. They've got an EMP and Faz's own little sound barrier to work off.
This EMP is going to charge really quickly as well, I think. They've got the ultimates to be able to play off of it, so if CLG decide to engage, they've had to make some changes as well. V and Hydration switching over to the Ana and Genji. But if they decide to engage here, they've got the sound barrier to work with, and then the EMP for any later fight. Looks like they're going to engage. It only catches Faz, though. That's possibly the worst sound barrier I've seen in a long time.
They're trying to get it into the tail end of this fight still. Shiny's working his magic onto the point, putting in a decent amount of damage. The EMP comes out. It's going to be enough to bring them down. D's just trying to hardest to heal them off into the edge of the map, but Spirit's going to be bringing him down as well. So lack of heals now for the side. Trying to push their way in. Good defense from Rise Nation. Once again, 2 minutes now. The time is just ticking down, and CLG cannot find an option on this point.
That wasn't too bad, though, from CLG, because they didn't invest any ultimates other than the self-destruct, and they were really just aiming to get the EMP and the sound barrier out of Midnight and Faz. Midnight's actually swapped over as well, so he isn't feeling good about running the Sombra on defense in the final 2 minutes. And they don't really have ultimates to be able to swing this fight, other than Locks and Retis if they manage to get them up. Pulse Bomb comes out, but they're not going to connect onto anybody. This is CLG's potentially best attempt at taking this one here, apart from that first fight. Nanoblade coming in.
Indeed, they're going to be trying to make some magic happen. It's going to be Hydration just working as little sushi sword, just swinging it around all over the place with the nano boost on him. And they have picked up the kills. This is probably one of the best pushes they've had yet. Hydration with the Swift Strike does reset it onto Spirit as well. It's going to be the Helix Rocket from Retzi. Does answer it as well. The Attack Visor comes out from him, but he's going to get focused down nice and quickly. And there you have it. That is going to be GG's called. And it is CLG with one fell swoop, taking Rise Nation's map pick of Hanamura 3-1.
Wow, well, that's well played by them. And just the fact that they look like they've been held off so well right until the end, I really thought that they'd be able to stick in it. But play of the match here goes over to Spirit on Tracer. There's a consolation prize, perhaps.
Yeah, I'd rather have a play of the game than winning thousands of dollars.
Well, there we go then. That sets up our bracket fairly nicely. What do you think about that game overall then? In terms of how the styles were clashing, CLG definitely brought something new to the table once the Pharah Mercy was being countered.
It's interesting because Rise thought they had something planned, right? They thought they had something in the back pocket that could deal with it with Hanamura as one of their map picks, but CLG seemed entirely comfortable with that first defense. And even the second defense, like there was, even though it took CLG multiple attempts to attack on the second point, it was actually honestly super interesting because all they needed to do was focus down on the right targets of other ultimates, and suddenly that was it. It's just going to be a one fight instantly, and they didn't really give Rise Nation an opportunity to stagger out that final point that they were doing to Rise Nation on the opposite side when they were switching sides. So I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest, from Rise Nation coming out from it. But CLG, I think it really comes down to the fact that they did just outplay them.
Yeah, I certainly was expecting more from Rise Nation. I felt like they either would have some kind of plan for Hanamura that we hadn't seen from them so far, or they had a specific counter to CLG that they felt they could bring out on Hanamura, but they didn't seem to show either. So I'm not really sure whether they had planned something and they didn't feel like it was going to work, or they just felt like Hanamura was some curveball that they could throw in that CLG wouldn't have practiced as much that they were able to come out with. But CLG looked comfortable there, and it kind of played into them. It worked really well. Their bread and butter was better than Rise's.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that just goes to show when you really nail down a composition that works so well in a variety of circumstances, it's usually going to be better than some of the set plays and strategies that teams try to employ when it comes to these maps.
Well, they weren't able to make it work on Hanamura, and therefore weren't able to send it over to Volskaya either, so we're robbed of our final showing on the assault maps. But that's going to be CLG taking it 3-1 in our second semi-final, which sets up, I mean, that's a fantastic run from CLG, just for starters. Yes, I think we should say that. No, I really wasn't expecting them to progress past the quarterfinals, and they had the 8th seed coming into this tournament. They were on a bit of a plateau, or possibly even a downswing coming into this as well. Coming into the CyberPowerPC Spring Invitational, they had been struggling a little bit to keep up their promising performances of about a month ago, but they have slaughtered Immortals, and now they've slaughtered Rise Nation on their path to the grand finals, where they'll be meeting up with Cloud9. So, sorry, with LG Evil. What am I talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. These grand finals, these next few games that we're going to be seeing, so it's going to be Hex and ZP taking it away from us. My camera just doesn't want to stand still. It just keeps drifting upwards and upwards and upwards. But
bye, Bren.
Bye, Bren. I'll see you later, guys. I'm going. Because I've got it launched on this laptop. It's really pain in the backside. But
just hold it like that, like you're taking a selfie.
Hi, guys. I'm taking a selfie now. Goodness gracious me. I don't think it's going to get any worse if I tried. It's insane.
Well, if you want to save them from that, we can have a look at the giveaways and the predictions that are going on. We're going to plug this one last time before we hand over to ZP and Hexagrams to take over the bronze game and the grand final. And that the giveaways are at cyberpowerpc.sevo.com/giveaway, and you can enter in there. You can enter up to 5 times if you interact with us in a different amount of ways, and you can win an i7 processor, some Western Digital solid state drives, and a keyboard. And if you want to get in on the predictions game as well, you've got 2 last chances. You've got this bronze match here between Rise Nation and Cloud9, and then you've got the grand finals itself between CLG and LG Evil. And if you predict how those are going, then there's potential for you to win some prizes of your own there as well. So get in onto those 2 things. And any final words, Bren, before we execute you? I mean, remove you from the broadcast.
That's it. I'm done. My casting career is over. No. Honestly, these games were incredible, and I'm blessed with the opportunity to cast them. Really was an incredible tournament so far, and it will still be. There's still 2 more games yet to be played, as we've already said. If you liked our casting, you can follow me at Brencast. You can follow this idiot. I'm not sure which way the camera's pointing. It's this way or this way. You can follow him at Sideshow Gaming. And this is on Twitter, by the way. We generally, well, I don't know about you. I shouldn't really speak on your behalf, but I just like to dribble all over my Twitter. I come up with some absolute nonsense. If you're a big fan of nonsense, follow me. This guy generally comes out with more sensible suggestions and videos and content like that. But no, it was an absolute pleasure to cast these games, and we've had some absolute crackers, to be honest.
We definitely have. There's some crackers coming up, and that's going to be with ZP and Hexagrams for the bronze match of the grand finals. So they'll see you then.